Stuck between a libertarian and a Republican. Welcome to Publitarian Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Publitarian Podcast, and we are up to episode number 49 now, and I do not have a title for this as of yet. I may be just rolling through some news of the day type stuff. We have a sad beer fridge today, a very sad beer fridge. It has been unplugged. The reason the beer fridge has been unplugged is because Publitarian Studios will be relocating soon, and I'll find a way to be delivering the podcast to you within the next few weeks. Until then, my drink of choice today is a Tom Collins. This has kind of become a bit on the show that I didn't even mean for it to be. I always just talk about what I'm drinking, and that happens to be what it is today. It is a Tom Collins, an old man drink, but hey, I'm not young. So anyway, let's get to some news of the day. A quick update. I'm sure you guys have seen the video on social media. I think I've shared it on my own social media of the Asian guys walking through DC with the MAGA hats on and a couple of lovely local DC human beings start harassing them, taking the hat off, throwing their hats on the ground, stomping on them, calling them names, yada, yada, yada. Well, that part of the story was bad enough. What also makes a story worse, and maybe even better at the same time, is that these guys were North Korean defectors. And I'll read the story here from the Daily Caller. North Korean defectors respond to anti-Trump rapper. Oh, that was the other thing too. The guy was a rapper, but I didn't know his name. But anyway, the North Korean defectors harassed for wearing Make America Great Again hats in a viral video that recently surfaced are speaking out. They are part of Christian Freedom International, an organization that helps the persecuted. Wendy Wright, the president of the organization, sat down with the Daily Caller and read a message from the group, also sharing with us the details of their important mission. Okay. We are familiar with living a life where you cannot express your views, beliefs, or values. In North Korea, if you do express opposing views and get caught, torture, execution, or a concentration camp becomes your fate. That was and is North Korea and its system. No freedom of expression, continuous fear, man-made starvation, fear of death. The people we are trying to rescue are those who have fled North Korea, and the person you took the hat off and stomped on it, his 6-month-old son, 6-year-old and 9-year-old daughter, and his wife in North Korea were all brutally executed or sent to concentration camp by the brutal North Korean regime. He does not know all of the things President Trump does, but he is appreciative of the president's administration's stance towards North Korea and its efforts for freedom and not compromising with Kim Jong-un in recent Hanoi summit. While you can express your discomfort towards the MAGA hat, as long as it is done in a peaceful manner, that is fine with us. But what you did to us was absolute hatred. We are back in our homeland, but I hope you protect the freedom that was hard fought, which was not free to your country. Damn, son. Mic drop on that. It's pretty bad when you're being schooled on the North Korean about freedom. It really just shows how far the country has sunk. And I blame the NEA in part, a large part actually. I wish I could get Red Pill Teacher back on the podcast, but Red Pill Teacher did put me in touch with another guy who's a teacher working kind of from within in the system, and I need to have him on the podcast for an interview, and I just keep putting it off because I have so much to talk about on the podcast. And I don't do a whole lot of interviews, but I need to start. Like, my interview log is backing up. I've had people requested to be on the podcast. I've made my own requests for people to be on the podcast. And then I just continue to make podcasts and not reach out to these people. So my apologies to everyone that's listening to the podcast that I've told I will have you on, or I've asked you to be on, or you've asked me to be on. It's coming. I'm going to make a conscious effort to make this better. Anyway, I've said it for the past 5 podcasts. We're 40 years too late to the culture war. We're fighting the battles that we're fighting now, but the left keeps breeding soldiers through the NEA, education, media, and propaganda. So we're fighting the warriors that are now coming at us, but we're not stopping the breeding grounds for these warriors. And it's time to start taking a look at that. I'm not talking about a full-on civil war or boogaloo, as some of us on the right call it. We're not to that point yet. We may be getting there, but we're not to that point yet. We can still culturally shift this and win this. What I'm really curious about, and I don't know the answer to this, I know that Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin were talking about starting some kind of answer to Patreon. I haven't heard anything about that. I think there's one also called Subscribestar. I don't know much about that. But what I'm not seeing is us picking up the fight and trying to wage these battles, like in media and in education, with the exception of PragerU. They are really starting to red pill people with educational, informational videos. If you have not seen any of the PragerU videos, I suggest you check them out. They're good videos. Shout out to Dennis Prager for that. That's being fought on the education, but people are still sending their kids to these government indoctrination public schools. And I know what you're thinking. If you're a parent and you're listening to my podcast, you're going, well, not my school, not my kids, not my school. Yep, your school too. Every parent, think about it. Think about where you're sending your child off to. Well, no, it's not my school. My school is not like that. Yes, it is. Teachers unions, administrators, and a lot of the teachers, leftist indoctrinators, throwing it out there. So we need to really start doing better on that front. And then on the media front, the mistake we make on the media front is conservative media movies are pretty much right-wing based and Christian and sometimes hokey. Let's be honest. I'm sorry, I'm a Christian, but I'm just calling it like it is. To win this fight, we don't have to continue just to do movies about abortion or relationships with Jesus. We can just make a movie that's entertaining and that does not inject left-wing politics. That's kind of like what Fox News started off doing. They weren't going, hey, we're the Republican answer to news. They were just going, hey, we're not the mainstream media. And they just let the chips fall. Now, of course, you could say they have a right-leaning bias, but I mean, they also have a lot of left-wingers that are on the show. And I believe a left-winger owns the entire network now. So that's one of the mistakes that the conservatives are making in media. We don't have to produce content that is strictly right-wing political. We just need to make content that is not Marxist or that just entertains or that even doesn't have to be, like I said, anything political. Just entertain the masses. And that's one of the mistakes we're making. I didn't mean to go off on this tangent. I'm 9 minutes into the podcast now, and I got to my one news story, and then I started talking about conservatives in the media. But that's where it is. Maybe it's a little hypocritical on my part since I do a right-wing podcast, but politics is what I like to talk about. I don't know what else I would do if I didn't talk about politics on this podcast. Anyway, moving on to my second story. I was going to do this whole bit about the Sports Illustrated Burkini issue, and I just could not get the music or the female sexy voice together. So I'm just striking that from the record. Speaking of media, I really feel like the world has become desensitized. What I mean by that is, think of all the images and sounds that you're bombarded with daily, weekly, hourly, minutely, secondly. There is a constant barrage of just violence, pornography, images, emotions, feelings, and internet cause after internet cause. I'm talking about people with there's people with good intentions too. Like charitable cause for this, asking you to give to this, give to that. I think it's really started to wear down on a lot of us and make us numb to things that matter. Politically speaking, the only upside I see to that is the left runs every campaign off of emotion and feelings. And we are getting to the point where we don't have those feelings anymore. We just get oversaturated with media, music, images. I know this is hypocritical of me to talk about this on my podcast because I am assaulting your ears and then I also assault your eyes on Instagram. But think about it. Think of all that we ingest into our brains. It's becoming to the point where even if like I said, even if somebody has a noble cause, like a charity or something that they want you to give to, it's almost like, oh, God, I got to give to some. I'm not trying to toot my horn here. I'm a charitable person. I like to give to things. I'm not saying that because I want some kind of accolades. I'm saying it because like everybody approaches you to give to this, give to that. I don't know. And you get to a point where you just, what else can you give? You can't give anymore. So politically, the left might be shooting themselves in the foot on down the road because they've so desensitized us to all these images and feelings to where they aren't working anymore. But they'll probably end up diving deeper and finding some new debauched thing that they can twist and make a good thing instead of a bad thing. Like an 11-year-old drag queen being represented by Converse. Converse is owned by Nike, which I didn't know until I did some digging. I did post something on my social media about that. And of course, I got the typical backlash. You should be giving those shoes to a charity. Charity begins at home. What are you doing? I love it when people tell other people what they should be doing for charitable work. That's the very definition of leftism and socialism. Me telling you what to do with your stuff and your money. The reason I say that is the image showed this pastor. He's like a popular like Instagram, YouTube pastor who like does these messages, and he was burning his shoes and he was like, never again. And people are like, oh, that could have went towards a charity or something. Listen, Judgy McJudge Pants, before you get on your high horse, look and see what that man gives to charity, how much money he gives, what he does for people. If he's wanting to do something symbolically, let him do it. That's not your call. The Boston Tea Party was symbolic too, and it sparked the Revolutionary War, and we got a hell of a nice country out of it. So why don't you sit down? Oh, snap! Let's see, what else is going in the news? You know what we haven't done in a while that I think we should, since I was just doing the news of the day and catching up, because I don't have any time to really do any deep dive on any of one of my topics. Why don't we do a swipe for cancer? I haven't done that bit in so long, so some of my new listeners might not even know what Swipe for Cancer is. No, it's not a charity. So what I do is I pick up my smartphone in real time and I swipe and I see what my horrible Apple News feed has to say to me for news. So let's go there now, shall we? From the Washington Post, Dow plunges as investors fear escalating trade war threatens economy. The thing about that is the stock market is up and down, and I heard people squawking about it on Friday. Oh, we're all in the red. And then I look at the stock market and everything's in the green except for one stock. And I'm like, okay, calm down, children. From the Wall Street Journal, Apple loses bid to end app antitrust case in Supreme Court. What's happening here is Apple says they're so far removed from the actual sale of their product that they can't be sued. And the Supreme Court, a surprising move by Kavanaugh, actually, says that they can. From the Washington Post, the Supreme Court ruled Monday that consumers can proceed with an antitrust lawsuit challenging Apple Inc.'s exclusive control over the marketplace for iPhone apps, threatening the tech giant's slice of billions of dollars in software sales. Plaintiffs who are suing on behalf of a class of app purchasers allege consumers pay inflated prices because Apple requires that all phone software be sold and purchased through the company's app store. Apps would be cheaper if software developers could sell them directly and bypass Apple as middlemen, the lawsuit alleges. Okay, well, as an iPhone user, I will say I kind of like that Apple does that. It keeps out the riffraff, so to speak. You know that if you download an app, it's Apple approved. It's not going to put a bunch of viruses and bullcrap on your phone. So, yeah, not in favor of that. What else have we got in the cancerous news feed? China retaliates against the U.S. with its own higher tariffs on $60 billion in goods. Everybody is so scared about this upcoming tariff war with China. China needs us. I don't know if you guys know that or not. They need us for their economy. If they kill the golden goose, we will not be producing any more golden eggs for them. Like, they need us to prop up their version of this capitalistic communist system that they have over there. So they're going to fire some shots across the bow to let us know that they mean business, and they're going to ultimately fail One, because they need us. As much as we are in debt right now to them, they need us to keep their economy propped up. And President Trump knows this. And also part two of that, President Trump, who wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, is the one negotiating these deals. I have 100% faith that we're going to come out on top on this. So I wouldn't worry your heads too much about China and the trade war and what's going on with that. Tariffs are, I don't like the idea of tariffs. I did learn something new about tariffs, that until the income tax, the federal government was funded mostly through tariffs. And I am going to do a show on that coming up, on where your money goes, where your income tax money goes. And I promise you that you're not going to be happy about it. Hashtag taxation is theft. But that will be for another show. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the tariff war. China can't win the tariff war with us because they need us. And I think that will do it for my rambling this week at Publitarian Podcast. I got some of my news of the day stuff knocked out, some of my free thought ramblings, and I think I am good now. So like I said, Publitarian Studios will be moving soon, within the next couple of weeks. So I'll get the podcast out somehow. May not be professional studio quality, I don't know, but I will try my best. Me and Mr. Announcer Guy will do our best. Isn't that right?
Of course, Ronald. I'm always here for you, man.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all of you that listen to the podcast. And get the word out. Let people know you listen to the podcast. You know what? I am the world's worst promoter of my own podcast. I do pretty good numbers on this podcast, but I mean, of course, I could always do better. Your humble tier 1 podcaster would like it if the word gets out. So if you wouldn't mind, share one of my posts on your feed. Say, hey, I listened to this podcast. Check it out. If you like it. If you don't like it, don't. I'm not forcing you to do anything. This is America, after all. The only way I could force you is if I were part of the IRS. Oh, full circle. Back to taxation is theft. Man. That will do it for me on this edition of Publitarian Podcast, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm publitarian@gmail.com or thepublitarian@gmail.com, and I am Publitarian on all the social medias. Have a good one.
Listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2019.